Hey guys, welcome to the Scholar Online YouTube channel, the channel that is all about learning. If you're new to the channel and if you haven't subscribed yet, please click on the subscribe button at the bottom of the video that you're watching right now. It's that red button over there. Just click on it and turn on the notifications so that you'll be notified every time we produce a new video on this channel. We generally produce new videos on a Wednesday and on a Saturday, and sometimes only once a week. It depends really. Sometimes our videos are very long and we then only produce one video a week instead of two. All right. And if you're new to our channel as well, we always make sure that we give you all the information that you need to follow along with the videos that we produce. So at the bottom of the video, right next to where the description should be, there is a button over there that says shows more. You can click on it and it's going to expand the description. Okay. So if we discuss about, a link or, something that was, I say to you, I'm going to link it in the description below. You're going to find that link over there. All right. And for every video that we make as well, we have timestamps to help you navigate through our content a little bit better. As you can see, a lot of our videos are very, very long because we explain all of our concepts in great detail. Okay. So instead of watching the entire 3-hour video, you can just read through the timestamp and figure out which part of the video you want to see. Of course, you're welcome to watch the entire video, but if, for example, you're coming back and you wanted to remind yourself of something, you can use the timestamp. Okay, the way that timestamps work is if, for example, you want to, figure out, oh, this is how I want to do a tweet with an image, just click on the timestamp over there, and it's going to fast forward and take you to that section that is talking about that. Okay, so this helps you navigate through the videos that we're making. Okay, you don't have to watch the entire video. Okay. So on the description as well, we will have links to our YouTube, Instagram, and all of that, so feel free to follow us on social media so that, you can learn more about a Scholar Online. In this video, I'm going to be taking you step by step through the process of deploying your own Python Flask web application on the DigitalOcean platform. All right, we're going to be building a web application using Python 3 on the Ubuntu operating system, and we'll be using Nginx as our web server. And obviously, the application will be built on a Flask, which is a lightweight, Python web framework, and easy to work with and easy to demonstrate exactly how to do this. All right, so let's get started. First of all, DigitalOcean. So obviously, to get started, you will need a DigitalOcean account. You need a DigitalOcean virtual private server or Droplet as they call it. But this tutorial can be applied to any other virtual private server hosting platform. You don't have to be working with DigitalOcean. You could be working with even Domains has got virtual private servers you could work with. It's really up to you what you want to use. I'm using DigitalOcean because it's one of the cheapest. I mean, you can get a Droplet here for $5 US and already get started. So that's why I'm gonna work off of this. And just head over there, and I will put this link in the description below, and you can get yourself any operating system over there. But obviously, to follow along with this tutorial, we'll be working off Ubuntu, and you can use the latest Ubuntu version, which is 20.04, and then you can get started. I also have a tutorial in this another tutorial in our YouTube channel where I take you through the whole process of setting up your whole Droplet from the beginning to the end, and how to set up your SSH keys and all of that. You will need to have that set up before you can do what we're doing here today. So this tutorial is assuming that you already have your Droplet, you've already bought it, whether it's from DigitalOcean or anywhere else, you've already set up SSH, you can already log into your Droplet, and we're gonna work off of that. So if you look over here, this is our Droplet. You'll see I'm working off a MacBook, and you'll see with the coloring there that I've already logged into my Droplet. So we're gonna go from the process of you've already logged in, you already have everything working. All right. But what I want to spend a little bit more time on is setting up your domain. Obviously, to deploy an application, you need a domain. You need a custom domain, and you can buy a domain anywhere. I love working with domains.co.za, and I'll also put this link in the description below. Okay, so you can go to domains. You can buy a domain for as little as 80 rands. If you get a hosting package, you get the domain for free. All right. Then once you logged into your domains account, you need to set up the DNS records. This is the important part. Why? That's why I want to cover this, because you need to set up what they call DNS records to point to your droplet. So there are 2 steps here. All right. You need a virtual private server, which is a droplet. So this is your droplet. All right. And then you need a domain. All right. So for the droplet part, I think I've covered that. And for the domain part, this is where you need to get it off domains.co.za. And I'm going to use one of the domains I've already purchased. I won't buy a new one just to show you this tutorial. And what I'll do is that I will use a subdomain of one of these ones. So I think I'll work off webdesignjohannesburg.com, all right? So head over to your, if you log into your account, you click on manage account, and then you click on domains over there, and then you'll get to the page that I'm at right now. And then when you get here, you need to go to manage over there at the bottom, and make sure you're managing the right domain, and then you need to go to DNS records. This is where you need to adjust your DNS records. There's 2 types of DNS records you need to adjust, the A record and the CNAME record. So click on manage DNS over there. Okay, and we're gonna go right to the bottom of this page, and the A record is already selected for us over there, and we're gonna just change this to 120, and we're gonna create a new subdomain under this domain, all right? So to create a new subdomain, we decide what we wanna call that subdomain. We want to call it a learning. So the host will be learning. The A record is the type of record is A, and then the value over there will be 41.76.109.72. Obviously, you not going to enter the same numbers I've entered. You're going to enter the numbers here that is the IP address of the droplet that you have bought. So when you come over here and you purchase a droplet, or whether you purchase it in any other provider, you will get an IP address. That IP address is the number that you need to enter over here. Okay, so don't enter my IP address, or else it's not going to work. And then once you've done that, click add record. We need to then add a CNAME record. So the CNAME record will now be the host for CNAME will be learning dot whatever your domain is. So learning.webdesignjohannesburg.co.com. .com, yeah, whatever. So click add record. All right. So we've covered the first point. We've got our VPS. We've got our domain. So let's log into our VPS, and you need obviously to set up your VPS, install all the things that you need to install. And after you've installed and set up the VPS for Python, you need to do a couple more things. You need to install Nginx. Okay, Nginx is going to be the web server that we'll be using, and just do sudo apt install Nginx for that. And then you also need to install Certbot. We'll use Certbot later on to install an SSL certificate on our website. This is optional. You don't have to do this. You can always buy an SSL certificate from other, third-party providers, but Certbot provides it for free with Let's Encrypt. So to get Certbot, you need to just run the commands sudo apt install Certbot, Python 3 Certbot Nginx. You can do it in one line, all right? Maybe let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see this. All right. So you need to just run sudo apt install Certbot space Python 3 Certbot Nginx. This will allow you to run Certbot commands directly off the command line. And then once you've done that, you need to install Virtualenv. And then to do that, you need to run a pip install Virtualenv. Okay. So these 3 commands, if I did them for you, I'm not going to install them because I already have these things installed. Then we're gonna now install the actual virtual environment we'll be working with. All right, and to do that, we just do virtual environment like that, and we're gonna call it learning. You can call the virtual environment anything you want. I like to call it based on the project name so that I can remember which virtual environment is which, and I've got a system that I work with. So if you do virtual environment, virtualenv, learning env, it will install a virtual environment in this location. So make sure you are in the location you want to work with. So if you see, I've already created a new folder called learning, and I'm working inside of the folder called learning by installing the virtual environment in there. And then I'll click enter, and it will take some time to install it. And then I'm going to just clear this. And if you ls to list everything in here, you will see this is an empty folder. It only has one file in there, one folder in there called learning env. This learning env is your virtual environment. So all the packages we're going to be installing, the Python packages are going to be installed in here. separated so that we can run our application directly from there. Once you've done that, then you need to activate this virtual environment. And to activate the virtual environment, you need to type source, and you're just going to copy that virtual environment /bin/activate. All right, this activates the virtual environment. You won't see any change really, except you will now have like a learning env, in brackets in front of your command line. And then if you list, you'll see you're still just in there. There's nothing else in there. But this is pretty much what you need to do to get started. Our environment is set up. We have the folder, it's installed. And then once you get to this step, you'll be able to continue with everything else that we're doing. All right. So the first 3 steps is pretty much done in 5-10 minutes. Now we can start building our actual application. All right. And like I said, our application is going to be in Flask. Flask is one of the easiest, honestly, the most lightweight platforms. That's why I wanted to use this to demonstrate to you how to deploy an application. Right. So with Flask, all you need to do is once inside the virtual environment, you need to do pip install Flask. All right, so this will run and it will install Flask for you and everything else that you need with Flask. And then we're gonna create a new file. Basically, you need 2 things. You need a directory called templates where you're gonna install all your templates. You need a directory called a static for all your static files, but we're going to skip the static directory for now. Let's just work with templates so we can have at least 1 HTML template. So for that, we just do mkdir template. All right. And then after we've done that, mkdir template, we're going to cd in there. All right. So we're going to go inside of the templates of a file, and then we're going to nano index.html. Right, so this will open a new file called index.html, and we're just gonna put basic HTML in there. All right, and I'm gonna use my code what you call in here to help me figure out what the contents of that HTML file. So inside of the index.html file, if you're using the Atom code editor, you can just type in HTML like that, and then you press enter, and it will give you like a basic HTML, like basic HTML, sort of like what the things that will go into an HTML file, which is the opening, closing brackets of the HTML, the head tags, the body tags, and in here you can just put your title, and I'm just gonna call this learning, and then inside of the body, I'm just gonna have like a div. And I'm going to call this div container, and then inside of here I'll just have an h1 tag, and then I will say this is the learning website. All right, that's all I'm going to do. I'm not building, this is not a tutorial for building a website. This is a tutorial for deploying a website. You would have a website at this point that you want to deploy. All right, so I'm just going to click yes in there, and I'm going to cd out of there. And then once I'm in here, we need to then create the Python file that runs our application. And so that's going to be nano-app.py. All right. And then inside of this Python file, I'm just going to copy somewhere basic contents that should go in here, and then I'll come and paste them in here. Request render template, you need a secret key. And then for the app root, which is the home root of this application, we'll call it home. We'll just render that index.html template, and provided we've saved it inside of the templates folder in the same directory as where our app is, everything should be fine. Okay, then I'm gonna just close this and click yes. All right, and then if you just want to test that your app, at this point you want to test that your app is running properly, we're just gonna do Python app.py like that, and if there's no errors, it means everything at least was imported properly. And then we can just quickly go to any website, and then we need to obviously say HTTP, our domain, our IP address is this 41.76.109.72, and then it's 888. All right, like that. And if everything goes well, you will see that HTML will get rendered. This is the learning website. That's all we had in there. We had an H1 saying this is the learning website. So basically now we have a Flask application. So this is the application that we are going to be deploying, all right? Obviously, in your case, you probably have a more complex application, but this is a minimalistic Flask app that is, with one web page. And obviously for this HTML, you can replace this HTML file with anything that you want. I mean, you can have, whatever you want in here. But for now, I'm just going to have this simplistic app, and we will be using this to deploy, all right? So we've finished building our app, all right? So the next step is to install, obviously, the tools that we will require to get our application to be deployed on DigitalOcean, all right? So for that, I'm going to need this file here, which has a lot of my notes, all right? And we're gonna start over there by creating a file that is called wsgi.py. So let's stop this first of all. Let's clear this, all right? And then we're gonna create a file nano wsgi.py, because we'll be using this to run our app, all right? And once we've done that, inside of this file, we're gonna just have like 3 lines of code. So basically we are importing this file from app, import app. From app, this app is that app.py file, which is in the same directory as this wsgi file that we just created, and then we're just running the app. So we're importing the app and then we're running it. That's all we're doing here, all right? So click enter there, and obviously at this point, you need to make sure that you have installed a wsgi. So let's do that quickly. Okay, pip install. Because we're going to be using this later on, and successfully installed it. Perfect, that's all right. So after you've installed it, we're just going to test that we can use wsgi to run the app, all right? So this is like a production grade, running, because when you run your app, if you take it from debug to production, you won't be able to run it like the way you run it on normal debug command line. You're going to need something like wsgi that is production grade to run the application. That's why we're doing what we're doing now. So we're going to test that wsgi is working properly by running this line. Okay, it's just we're going to be using 555 port. You can use 888, you can use whatever port you like. In fact, the ports that you have inside of your app at this point becomes irrelevant. Let's test this. Okay, and if you don't get an error over there, you're good. But to test that the app is still running, we're gonna just refresh this page. Okay, so it's no longer running on 888. That's why we have that problem. So we need to try it on 555. wsgi is running it on 555. There you go. So the application is still running. wsgi is running it on 555. You can see some of the records over there. So we're good to go. So you can stop this, and then we've got that second step covered. Okay, and then the next one, now we can now completely deactivate our learning environment, virtual environment, because we're gonna now be creating some files to help us use a system to run this our application. All right, so the first thing that we need is to create a an ini file, and inside of that ini file, we're going to create a socket that we're going to be using to run our application. All right, and for that, I'm just going to create a file that's called nano learning.ini, just like that. All right, and then inside of that ini file, we're going to just paste these contents in there. And I'll show you later on what this is that we're pasting in here. Basically, we're telling it that we're running UWSGI as an app. We'll be running it on 5 processes, and then we're going to create a new socket, and that socket we're going to call learning. And it will be created in the same directory that we're at. And then once you've done this, there's optional location of log files, and this is useful for if you're still debugging and if you still sort of want to be able to keep track of all your logs. You can specify specifically where you want your log files to go, so that when you have an issue with your application, you can go and look at the log files. And this is where you would see the content that would be that would have normally been printed on your terminal window, if you printed anything out, or if there was an error and you had a log record created, they will go into the log files, okay? But I'm not going to do the log files for now. I'm just going to do this, and then I'm going to close this and save it and say yes. All right, so once you've done that, then you can go into creating our system file. The system file is a file that is saved inside of your operating system as a section. Every time you restart your server, every time you restart your Droplet, your VPS, whatever happens, the system files always get run, so that your application will be up all the time. So your system file helps keep your uptime of your app up. So if something went wrong, there was server maintenance, there was issues with anything, and this happens all the time, especially with the virtual private servers, that they'll go under maintenance, or something will go wrong and something will break, and then it will switch off, and then it switches on again. Let's say it's in the middle of the night and you're not reminded to go back and switch on your application. The system file will rerun. All the system files get rerun when the Droplet gets restarted. So your web app also will get restarted that way, right? So for the system file, we need to put it in a specific location. The system MD location, so this is the location that it needs to go into, etc system MD system, and then you can give it a name over there, and it needs to be a service type file. All right, and obviously, because this is a pseudo location, or this is an important location, or you can only access or create or delete anything inside of this location with pseudo privileges. That's why you have the pseudo at the beginning of that command over there. So only a super user can run this. All right, so we're gonna then run this command, and we're gonna call this service file learning service. All right, this means that we'll be able to access the file using the learning name, and create it in the same location where all our system files are created. All right, and then I'm gonna click enter, and then I have to enter my password, obviously, to run a sudo command. And then inside of that file, you're going to enter a couple of things. I'm going to just copy this, and then I'll take you through the lines step by step. All right. The first part, obviously, is you need to give it a name. All right. So it's a wsgi instance to serve the learning web app. All right. So I'm just going to call it to serve learning. All right. And then this is the service that it's going to be running. The user will be myself. So whatever your user that you want this system to run as, you need to put in that username there. And then the group will be www.data for the websites. And then after that, you need to specify three things: your working directory, your environment, and your executive start order. Okay, so these are the three important things that we need to specify. And for our Python app, we need to know where the location of the working directory is. All right, so for me, the location was development, and I think I created a folder in there called learning. Right, so it will be development learning. Let me just copy that learning, because we will be using it a lot. And then the environment, this is where you have saved your virtual environment, okay, because it will be accessing that virtual environment to run your Python file. Okay, so you have to specify where the virtual environment is. And the name of my virtual environment, if I recall correctly, I did call it a learning env. So it's important to use the consistent naming convention, so that everything works out in the end, and you don't forget what you named something. If you name it in a consistent manner, you'll always remember. So inside of my development folder, there was a folder called learning, and then the name of my virtual environment was learning env. So that's all you need to specify. And then over there, to the exec start, obviously you need to mention the environment, and then the init file, right? So for that, the virtual environment here again is learning env. All right, and then the learning env file is inside of learning, inside of development, and then the name of the ini file was also learning.ini. Okay, If you're not sure at this point, you can stop and go double check again what you called everything, all right? You can double check what you call the ini file. You can double check what you call your virtual environment. You can double check again the location of your working directory. These are very, very important. If you have even a small slight error here, you're going to have a problem running your system file. All right, so I'm going to save the changes here and then close that. And this is where we are. I'm just going to click ls and you can see we did call our learning, our file, our ini file learning.ini, and our environment is also learning env, and this location is development learning. Okay, so just make sure all these are right inside of your learning.service file. Okay, so once you're done with the service file, you can do a couple of checks to make sure that your service file has been installed correctly. All right, so you can start the service. All right, so to start the service, you need to do sudo system ctl start. The name of our service is learning. All right, so let's start it. And then if there's no errors, it means it started the service properly. All right, and then we're gonna enable the service. All right, you need to enable it. That's the next step. Enable learning. All right, and then you'll see a feedback that they've created a symlink with learning. That's good. So your service is now enabled, and then you can check the status of your service. Okay, this is important. If there's errors, even if there's errors now inside of your application itself, if it wasn't started properly, like maybe there was a syntax error or whatever, you would see it here. All right, under the status. So the status of the learning service. All right, so you'll see in our specific case, we've got green, which means the service is running without an issue. And this is what's been printed out. Okay, wsgi started this. So everything is working well and we don't have an issue. Our service is running, all right? So I'm going to clear this. If you have a red over there, then something is wrong. So just double check your system file again. Double check all the roots are configured properly. Double check the ini file is configured properly. Just go through this video again and make sure you don't miss a step. If you follow everything I've done step by step at this point, you should have a green over there without an issue. All right. Then this needs to be green before you can proceed to the next step. If it's not green, you're gonna continue. You're just gonna have more problems in the future. All right. So now, if you go back at everything that we're doing over there, we are now we've completed everything inside of the tutorial except creating the Nginx file, which is finally going to actually serve our application. All right. So to do that, that's the last step. We are going to create the Nginx files in this location. Okay, you need to create it under etc Nginx sites available, and then you're gonna whatever you wanna call your Nginx file in there. All right, and because this is also an important location, you need sudo privileges to create anything in here. All right, so I'm just gonna copy all of that and paste it. You see, so sudo nano, this is opening up a new file inside of this location, and that file is going to be called whatever we put the name in there. So we're going to call it learning. You can call it learning.co.za if you want to remind yourself it's a learning website. You can call it learning dot whatever helps you remember. Okay, if you don't, I don't have a lot of things inside of my virtual server, so if I call it learning, I'll know what learning is for. But at this point, you must give it a name that you will know what was inside of that file when you created it. All right, so inside of the learning, I'm just going to copy what's in here. This is all you need to put in there. All right, so you're just basically telling Nginx to listen at port 80. All right, and then once you've listened at port 80, you need to then if anybody makes a request, a post, or a get request on port 80, this is a server under this server, then we're gonna serve that location. All right, so the name of our server, remember, I think we called it learning.webdesignjohannesburg.com. It was learning.webdesign And you can also do www here. Let me just copy this so I don't have to retype it again. Okay, www.webdesignjohannesburg.com. All right, so this is a server that somebody would be requesting, and listen, and then Nginx will be listening on this port for this request. And then if you get it, you're going to then serve the file, the init file or the socket file that's inside of this location. Okay, so I know I called my socket file learning. All right, and then the location is development learning. All right, so that's all you have to do. You have to go find where you saved your this is actually your working environment. So everything up to here is the working environment of where your Python Flask application is saved. And then you need the socket file, which was created by the ini file. And the socket file will be now called learning.sock, but that this is also inside of your ini file, and you can just double check to make sure that this is correct. And then once you've done this, also make sure that your server name is correct. You're just going to do that and save the changes and click yes. All right, and then once you've done that, we need to then initiate Nginx. But before we can do that, before we can initiate Nginx, we just need to link sites available to sites enabled. All right, okay, so just replace that with learning, and then you press enter. Once you've done that, we then need to check that there are no errors inside of our Nginx file. Okay, and then it's telling us there that our configuration test is successful. Then once we're done with that, we're just going to restart Nginx. And if everything is has gone well, you should be able to go to any website and just look for your domain. Your server learning webdevelopmentjohannesburg.com, and you just press enter there, and then you should be able to see the website that you created running properly.